Hello, I'm Linda Drake here with Alyssa Muller, and we are staff to the Washington State Board of Education. This video brief is to inform and invite input on an emergency waiver program to allow districts to waive certain graduation requirements. This program is based on House Bill 1121, and at the time of this video, the bill has passed both chambers of the legislature and is awaiting the signature of the governor. The Washington Diploma has three broad requirements: the high school and beyond plan, subject area credit requirements, and graduation pathway options. This year's waiver program will be similar to the emergency waiver that was available for the class of 2020. It will allow the waiver of some credit requirements, and in addition, will allow the waiver of graduation pathway options. This slide shows the subject area credit requirements, which is composed of core or foundational credits, and flexible credits, which are composed of electives and personalized pathway requirements. Personalized pathway requirements are three courses that must align with the student's high school and beyond plan and should help prepare the student for education or a career after high school. The board recognizes that high school students and high school educators are very eager to know what tools, including this waiver program, will be available for this year's seniors, as well as for students in future cohorts to help them complete high school and to graduate. So once the process begins, it will be a very short timeline to adopt emergency rules for students to be able to use waivers to graduate this year. The board will also be working on permanent rules to allow this waiver to apply to students in subsequent graduating classes. On February 20th, there will be a special board meeting to discuss draft emergency rules. It will be an opportunity for public comment, and we'll share feedback from an early survey on key policy issues with the board. On March 5th, there is a deadline for written feedback, and on March 10th and 11th, the board will be meeting and anticipates adoption of emergency rules for the emergency waiver program. By mid to late March, there's an anticipated release of the school district application that will grant the authority for the emergency waivers.
Beginning with the class of 2020, the State Board of Education may authorize school districts to grant emergency waivers on an individual student basis from the credit and subject area graduation requirements, the graduation pathway requirement, or both if the student's ability to complete the requirement was impeded due to a significant disruption resulting from a local, state, or national emergency. The bill also defines the word emergency by pointing to an existing definition in law, but expands the definition to include a national declaration of emergency by an authorized federal official. The bill includes other specific criteria for the emergency waiver program. School districts must demonstrate a good faith effort to help the individual student meet the requirements before considering the emergency waiver. The emergency waiver can only be granted to students who are reasonably expected to graduate in the school year the waiver is being considered. The bill also directs school districts to disaggregate student data to determine if there is any disproportionality among student subgroups being granted the waiver, and if so, take appropriate corrective action to ensure equitable administration. The bill directs the State Board of Education to adopt rules for eligibility and administration of the emergency waiver program. The rules may include eligibility criteria, limitations on the number and type of credits that can be waived, expectations of the school district regarding communication with students and their families, reporting requirements for school districts, and an application and approval process that allows school districts to apply to the State Board of Education to receive authority to grant emergency waivers in response to an emergency. SBE will develop emergency rules for the emergency waiver program on a short timeline to ensure schools and students have the information they need as quickly as possible for the class of 2021. Permanent rulemaking will also be ongoing this spring so that the waiver program can be extended to later classes also affected by the COVID-19 emergency. Through rulemaking, the State Board of Education will have to make decisions regarding key policy issues. The SBE is hoping that our partners, members of the public, and students and their families will consider taking a brief survey we put together to hear your thoughts on these key issues. The bill says that districts must make a good faith effort to support the student in meeting graduation requirements prior to considering an emergency waiver. What are examples of good faith efforts for helping students meet the credit and graduation pathway requirements? What are examples of a student demonstrating skills and knowledge indicating preparation for the next steps after high school as identified in their high school and beyond plan? Several possibilities might include the student is currently working or has received a job or apprenticeship offer and has a plan for advancement in their chosen career field, or the student has completed all necessary requirements for enlisting in the military with the exception of receiving their high school diploma. Another example might be the student has earned post-secondary credit through a Running Start course. These are just examples to give an illustration of what might be considered demonstrations of post-secondary readiness. The next decision point is around what limitations should be placed on the number and type of credits waived. For instance, how many total credits should be allowed to be waived? How many elective credits and core credits should be waivable? Should the number and type of credits that are waivable differ by cohort, also known as a graduating class? Finally, the bill says that school districts shall determine if there is disproportionality among student subgroups receiving emergency waivers, and if so, take appropriate corrective actions to ensure equitable administration. What policies would help ensure this emergency waiver program is implemented equitably? The link to the survey on the key issues shown on this slide is included in the video description, as well as the State Board of Education's email address that can be used to provide feedback on these decision points. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and for considering providing your feedback on these issues either through the survey or via email.